The more one looks at this subject of how the world actually works, you begin to see that there's a magical system, and I'm telling you, there really is a magical system dominating the world of the Western civilization. Begin to see how magical use of words and terms and symbols are used. You need to start looking at the world of the occult in politics and religion. But somebody has to control this show, and so consequently, the ancient Phoenician Canaanites developed a system by which they would assign to every person a second you. And this is the way it works in America. There is two of you. Consequently, the system has made each one of you a corporation. Did you know, for instance, that your birth certificate is a security on the stock exchange in the New York stock market? If you put an S in front of words, it becomes swords. And that's what words are. They're cutting. They can cause you great trouble. Humans are word-controlled creatures. So we need to establish what words mean.
Since ancient times, power has not been sustained solely through force or law, but through something far more subtle and persistent: language, symbols, and the hidden meaning they carry. Words are not simple sounds, they hide a dark secret. They are symbols charged with emotion, memory, and energy. Each one possesses a vibration capable of activating deep responses in human consciousness. Used in a certain way, they do not merely describe the world, they organize it, define it, and make it real. In that sense, words function as true spells. That is why it is called spelling. Jordan Maxwell argued that Western civilization rests upon a real magical system, inherited from very ancient cultures and carefully preserved to this day. A system that does not operate in the visible realm, but in the symbolic one. In that which is repeated so often that it ends up being accepted without being understood. Long before the Roman Empire, vast regions of Europe were organized around a priesthood of knowledge, the Druids. The Druids were not only religious figures, but guardians of the law, of language, and of the symbolism that shaped society. These power structures did not arise by chance. They trace back to ancient times and have been preserved through the centuries by forces operating in the shadows, safeguarding and transmitting this knowledge to control and shape humanity. What we now know as the magic wand has its origin among the ancient Druids. It was not a simple ritual object. It was an instrument of symbolic transmission, always carved from Hollywood, the sacred Hollywood. Does the name sound familiar? This is not accidental. It is symbolic. Today, that wood is reborn, transformed into images, stories, and narratives that travel through cinema and television. Hollywood is not merely a cultural industry. It is the wand of the ancient Druids reinvented, projecting symbols that shape beliefs, desires, and perceptions in those who receive them. Magic on an industrial scale. Maxwell claimed that when you learn to read these symbols, you stop seeing mere decorations and begin to perceive the hidden logic that organizes the modern world. They do not operate at a conscious level, but deep within the unconscious. Symbols and language are the core of this mechanism. Human beings are deeply sensitive to words because they activate emotion, identity, and meaning. That is why they have always been the most effective tool of power. They are not imposed, they are internalized. In the next few minutes, we will explore how this system is present in everything. It begins from the moment you are born, manifests itself in laws, education, and in your very identity. It influences every aspect of our lives without us realizing it. But by understanding it, the door opens to the possibility of freeing ourselves from its influence and creating our own spells. Because the creative power they tried to hide from you never stopped being within you.
When a ship pulls into port, it pulls in and stops, and it's called in its berth. The ship is now in its berth. Because it is on the law of the high seas, or commercial maritime, UCC commercial law rules the seas. So when the ship pulls into its berth, the first thing the captain must do is to present a certificate of manifest to the port authorities, which means that the port authorities need to know how much is on this ship that you're bringing into our country and our economy. Consequently, when you are born, you come out of your mother's water. Therefore, you must have a birth certificate, a certificate of manifest, because you are a corporation-owned item. You are a human resource. And therefore, you have to have a certificate, a manifest, to see how much this individual is going to make for us in our new world order.
The two identities, the human being and the corporate entity. Jordan Maxwell explained that one of the greatest acts of legal magic ever created is this. When we are born, we are granted a fictitious identity. From that moment on, we do not exist as a single identity, but as two. On one side is the natural human being, the one who is born from their mother's body, alive, conscious, free by nature. On the other, there is a second identity artificially created, a legal entity, a juridical fiction, a corporation. All of this imposed without your consent. The system cannot directly govern the living human being. It cannot possess it nor legislate over its essence. That is why it was necessary to create a substitute. That substitute is born with the birth certificate. Maxwell pointed out that the language and symbols used in this process are not accidental. At birth, the body emerges from the water of the mother's womb, he said. Since ancient times, water has been associated with commerce and maritime law, not natural law. Birth is registered as a commercial event. The doctor acts as an authorized witness, and the mother signs as an informant, not as the creator of life. Through this act, a legal entity is created, registered in the systems of the state and international banking. The key detail is your name, written entirely in capital letters. That name does not represent you as a living being. It represents a corporation, a legal entity without its own life. In fact, the word corporation comes from corpus, dead body. All commercial, fiscal, and administrative laws are designed to operate only over this type of entity. That is why your name appears in capital letters on official documents, fines, contracts, licenses, and notifications. The system does not address you as a human being, but as a legal entity. You can check it right now. Look at your identity card, your driver's license, your health card. The name always appears entirely in capitals, like that of a company or corporation.
On your birth certificate, all birth certificates in this country, on the bottom, it will tell you this is printed on security papers. You go to any good stock office and ask them, check these numbers in your computer and see how much this stock is worth, the certificate. And they will check it on the New York Stock Exchange and find your birth certificate is a stock on the stock exchange in America. Why? Because you are worth money to the international bank that bought you in 1930. We need to wake up.
According to Maxwell, this structure allowed the population to be converted into financial assets. Birth certificates function as bonds backed by the faith and credit of the individual. The debt of modern states relies on this human backing. In commercial terms, each person becomes a resource, a unit of value. Hence expressions like human resources, labor, currency, current. All belong to the same language, energy in motion, extracted work, transferred value. Like in The Matrix, when Morpheus reveals that humans are used as batteries, a constant source of energy that the system learns to channel, manage, and extract almost without us noticing. The Matrix is a computer-generated dream world, built to keep us under control in order to change a human being into this. Maxwell insisted on something fundamental. Confusing your natural identity with your legal identity is the basis of control. When a person believes they are the name in capitals, they voluntarily accept the rules of the game. This extends to titles and roles: citizen, resident, worker, student. Words that seem neutral, but in reality define your place in the pyramid of control. A citizen obeys laws. A resident accepts limits. A worker produces, and never questions their real role in the structure that governs them. Maxwell compared this to ancient magic. And here is a key detail that almost no one knows. The word person does not mean human being. It comes from the Latin persona, the theatrical mask used by actors to represent a role, a mask through which the voice sounded. Modern law inherited this concept. The law does not govern the living being, it governs the person. A legal mask, a role defined by norms, obligations, and limits. When you confuse who you are with the person you represent, the spell is complete. When you distinguish between the two, the structure begins to lose power. You must reclaim language. Every word you accept passively is another brick in the cage. Every word you choose consciously can be a hammer to break it down. Language as a technology of control. Jordan Maxwell insisted on an idea that changed everything. Language was not born just to communicate, it was born to structure reality. We are not talking about isolated words, but complete systems of meaning, definitions, categories, mental frameworks. Because the modern human being does not think in pure ideas, they think in words, and whoever controls those words controls the way you think. Maxwell explained that language works like invisible software. You don't see it, but it decides what is possible and what is not, what is normal, what is realistic, what is impossible. For example, when someone says, "That's not realistic," that's how the world works. There is no alternative. That is how you limit yourself. Power does not need direct censorship. It is enough to limit the vocabulary. From a young age, we learn words that normalize scarcity and obedience. You have to settle. Life is hard. Work hard and maybe you'll get lucky. Don't dream too much. Words that seem innocent, but are repeated until they become identity. The media amplifies this mechanism. They do not inform, they program mental states. Words repeated over and over. Crisis, threat, normality, security, emergency. It doesn't matter if they are true yet, because they know that the collective mind will, unconsciously, work to make that reality manifest. When a word is repeated enough, it stops being questioned. It becomes normal. It becomes invisible. And when language becomes invisible, the prison is already complete. But Maxwell warned of something crucial. Every technology can be used in both directions. If language can limit, it can also liberate. The moment you start observing how you speak, how you define yourself, and which words you accept without questioning, the program begins to fail. Words, vibration, and the matter that listens. If words are spells, the inevitable question is, what do those spells actually act upon? Maxwell always insisted that nothing in this world is solid, even if we are made to believe it is. Everything is organized energy, contained vibration, information in motion. And when you understand this, language ceases to be a simple means of communication and becomes a tool capable of influencing matter itself. Here is where experiments come in that, curiously, are never taught in schools. Masaru Emoto, for example, demonstrated something as simple as it is unsettling. Water responds to words, intentions, and emotions. When water was exposed to words like love, gratitude, or harmony, the crystals that formed when it was frozen were symmetrical, beautiful, coherent. When it was spoken to with hatred, fear, or contempt, the crystals became chaotic, ugly, deformed. Now connect the dots. The human body is composed of more than 70% water. If water listens, if water responds, what do you think the words you receive daily through the media and social networks provoke? And even more importantly, what effect do the words you repeat to yourself every day have within you? The ancients did not separate word and vibration. Both were technologies of manifestation. Think about this. The Druids, the magicians of Egypt, the sages of India, all had something in common. They knew that certain sounds, certain combinations of phonemes, altered matter and consciousness. The the primordial mantra, is not just a spiritual symbol. It is a vibration that resonates with the fundamental frequency of the universe. Repeated consciously, it harmonizes the body, the mind, and the energy field. Maxwell recounted how the secrets of sound were transmitted under layers of ritual and symbolism. Temples, cathedrals, Gregorian chants, all designed to tune the individual to specific frequencies, even without them knowing why they felt changed when entering those places. When you understand all this, the conspiracy becomes evident. Cinema, commercial music, the media, nothing they produce is truly random. Today's music industry is a clear example. Masaru Emoto showed how sound and intention could transform water crystals. Now think about the music that dominates the industry today. Which rhythms repeat, which lyrics are celebrated, which emotions are exalted. It is not by chance. That type of music is promoted, financed, and amplified. The goal is not purely economic. It is vibrational. To keep you in low, fragmented, reactive states. Because a disordered mind is easier to direct, and a weakened consciousness is more manageable. But if sounds can program us toward limitation, they can also reprogram us toward freedom. The lesson is clear. If you want to reclaim your creative power, it is not enough to change your words. You must also tune your internal vibrations. Sound, rhythm, and conscious repetition become your allies in the reconstruction of your reality. Apply the magic in your life. Real power is not in fighting the system, but in not feeding it unconsciously. Every word you say, every emotion you feel, every attention you give, is energy that flows. The key is to direct it consciously. After seeing how we are conditioned, it is time to reclaim our power. Step 1. Observe your language. Listen to yourself. Ask, how do I speak to myself when no one is listening? With love and respect, appreciating and empowering myself, or with criticism, guilt, and judgment? Every word you use internally builds you or limits you. Speaking to yourself as a creator, not as a victim, changes your vibration and your reality. Step 2. Detect external programming. The media do not inform, they ritualize. Repeated headlines, emotionally charged images, simple and uniform phrases, all are energetic programming. Today, social networks are even more sophisticated. Algorithms that know your desires, your fears, and your impulses. They do not address a mass. They go directly to you, personally. Their goal, your attention, your emotion, your energy. Step 3. Learn to filter and disconnect. With the internet, information is within everyone's reach. Before, the essential was reserved for small circles. Today, you can access it. But the challenge is to discern, separate the wheat from the chaff. Consciously choosing what you pay attention to is an act of power. Conscious silence breaks more spells than 1,000 words. Step 4. Listen to your silence. In silence emerges your true voice. There are no distractions, no external programming, no inherited judgments. Only you, connected with your essence, able to feel your vibration and align your energy with your deepest intentions. Practicing silence is a mystical act. It is where your consciousness strengthens and your creative power is revealed. Step 5. Reprogram with intention and conscious verb. Every word is energy. Affirmations, mantras, and conscious phrases are not self-help. They are reprogramming rituals. Repeat in the present. I am charged with emotion and certainty. Create your own personal spells, phrases that reflect your intention and desires without external contamination. Step 6. Stay connected to your essence. Remember who you are, not a number, not a role, not a legal identity. You are consciousness using a body, with the power to create or release. When you control your language, your internal dialogue, your silence, and your attention, you stop reacting to the world and begin to create it from your own power. Remember, words are energy. Intention is the code. Your attention is your power. It is not about fighting the system, but stepping out of the spell and beginning to create your own reality every day, with every word, thought, and action. Become the sorcerer of your life. That concludes today's video. I hope this information has been useful and enriching. See you soon.